This is the meeting of the BetaSaaSer Autograders. Where is any self-respecting meeting without an agenda? Nowhere, I hear you cry. Let's go and grab one of those sheets. We had a good session last time, didn't we, Rose? We actually got down into some coding. But let's not worry too much about that and get on to the topics du jour. Richard, yeah, we missed you last week. How are things going in your neck of the woods?
All good. My my TAs, which is nothing to do with you guys, but we're recording now, are we?
We are, yes.
Okay.
So not talking about TAs. No, right, no, I haven't got any TAs. No, so plausible deniability. Yeah, absolutely. Go on.
Well, like, I mean, last week there was just to give an example. This is just factual. One of my TAs hurt himself.
Oh no!
Oh dear.
And so was not available. And the other one went missing for a week. And he says he told me several times he was going to be gone for the week, but in my age I don't remember that. So whatever. But I'm making my way through. I do have a few questions. I'm going at a slower pace here, and we're just doing the Rails intro homework.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier in the semester, we were upgrading people to Ruby 2.4,
mm-hmm.
and changing gem files and so forth as necessary. And then the TA that was pushing in that direction, because my idea was, oh, let's bring it back down to 2.3.
Mm.
The TA wasn't there, and that's the approach that I took. I had the students like install and use 2.3 for Rails intro, and I was just wondering if going forward, just in this transition period we're at now, which might be better. I mean, we're already for this homework and for the future ones next month or two.
Mm-hmm. Great question.
So that's one issue. And the other issue is just talking about there's a sort of a GitHub problem, not sort of a logistic problem with that. And then the last thing I wanted to ask is I do plan actually today, I always want to do it before our meetings, and it always gets postponed, but I want to just sort of read through your walkthrough for this homework. And I was just wondering, do you see any benefit possibly of the video? Your video is, an hour and a half, an hour 45 minutes. If I look through the walkthrough, do you remember anything sort of interesting in that video? Because you especially if you make like these editorial comments, which you seem to do in the textual one too.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything more in the video, I might, if I can, sort of find some time while folding laundry or something, I might watch the video.
Yes, I couldn't. Concede.
You're not going to remember.
The quick answer is
yes.
Yeah, I probably was rambling on about different things in the video. Whether there's any value in that.
Okay, I'll let you know. I'll report back.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, you'll be able to tell me. Good show. Yeah, well, we can certainly come to these two issues. Let's get Rose's update and issues down on the agenda rock here. No, it's not a rock. It's a piece of paper. No, it's not. It's digital. But anyway, Rose, how are things going?
Well, discouraging.
Oh dear.
But only because I was planning on working on that walkthrough for the assignment, and instead it took me a day and a half to grade the exams for my other class. I didn't think it would take that long, and it was just horrible. So the time I had carved out for that disappeared. And then the rest of the week, see, we have a little break. We have they call it the fall break. It's ridiculous. It's 2 days. Okay, it's today and tomorrow. That's our fall break.
Right.
Okay, so before the break, also my other class has another exam this week. So basically, I had this nonstop parade of students all through the end of last week. So I spent this weekend working on the study guide for their exam, itself, and for some examples they asked me to do. And I have yet to get back to software engineering, which I hope to do soon, later today. But you know, my goal was to have this you know, approached and worked on before our meeting, and you know, I'm still tied up with this other class stuff.
But life has been happening. Yeah, we can definitely empathize with that situation. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My 2-day fall break, what that did, because it was a Monday and Tuesday, and I have classes Tuesday and Thursday, it canceled my 2 Tuesday sections. And so I had to decide, do I like throw away the Thursday section, or do I go on a skewed, like the beginning of the week starts on Thursday and then follows up on Tuesday? And I decided to do the latter, but you know, sometimes these breaks are more trouble than they're worth.
It's true. Yeah.
So as it stands, well, Rose, maybe we can actually take us, if we carve out some time today, we could actually get to that walkthrough and show Richard what we've been doing. So you don't have any pressing, like, obviously you haven't been focused on software or anything. Have the students been throwing up their hands with stuff and giving, like, complaining, or they seem to have been relatively calm?
They've been relatively calm, but it's because last week, okay, at the beginning of last week, they had their exam. And then the middle of last week, they had their presentation. And then this week, the homework isn't due until the following Monday. This week they're doing their first iteration kickoff, which I found in the past doesn't work out well if I do anything else that week. So all they're going to do is project work this week, which gives me a little wiggle room as far as getting things straightened out with this acceptance and unit test cycle homework. But you know, I really wanted to be well in front of it, especially since there seems to be some sort of problem with the Autograder.
Well, so on my side, I've got things from Armando needs me to completely shut down EC2, which is one of my top priorities. I've got a meeting later today with Armando's so a meeting with Armando's TAs to, like, fully onboard them to Autograder development. There has been a problem with the grader, which is that so there was a grader problem that, like, newer versions of Bundler were causing a problem. I then did some updates on Azure, thinking I've fixed the issue, but I'm not 100% sure. But what it does, I can successfully. It's like so. But part of the problem is that having done that update, now the old reference solutions are now not working. And just anyway, I mean, this is there's stuff to get into there, and so that's going on here. So maybe we can look at that today. Shall we now just dial back here to Richard's items, if we may, and then, so I mean, in terms of what the best approach here, I really don't know. I'm not aware of any errors that occur as a result of being on Ruby 2.4 versus 2.3. We haven't.
Well,
go on.
Right. And the thing is, I mean, with the students who are with the students who brought down the repo and started work on the Rails intro, things did not work. Okay, I see what you're saying. That's a separate issue. It wanted to, you know, the gem file wants 2.3, so I mean, so we needed to do that to be happy. There was a
different amount of work associated with getting set up for either 2.4 or 2.3, But once you're set up in either of them, I'm not aware of any subsequent issues.
Right. No, that I'll definitely say. I did find issues if they were in the Rails 5 that were, where things just did not work.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was like confusing a little bit in my head. That's a little bit separate issue. We had to back people down.
So yeah, the key things are that using 2.3 on C9 requires an RVM install, which is time consuming, and obviously scary and frightening for students. Using 2.4 requires editing the files.
Right.
Which I mean, this is clearly the path of least immediate resistance. My intuition is that this shouldn't cause a problem down the line, but I can't offer you a special SAM guarantee.
Yeah.
Maybe that, like, at that critical point where the assignment, because I haven't done the assignment in 2.4. The
issue is there any way to? Are you saying just changing 2.3 to 2.4 might work? That I didn't try. I was like too.
Yeah. I'm saying that's one option.
Okay, because I was concerned that there might be multiple edits required, and you're sort of implying that it might just be as simple as changing the gem file.
Yes, I believe
in that one place.
Yeah, because
okay, maybe I'll give that a try.
Yeah. I mean, we could possibly. I mean, what sort of needs to happen, given that 2.4 has become kind of like the default, is one of two things. Either we lock everything to 2.4 and upgrade it to that, or we generate some. Gosh, the sun's a funny color of red out of my window. Sorry. We don't see the sun much here in the UK. Or we kind of get some sort of script or template with C9 that locks us, so when the students come in. Until we can establish a dialogue with C9 about that, I don't know. None of the choices are perfect.
Okay. Never are.
No. But I think probably the best that we can do.
Let me just ask. Yeah, and so that's fine. I mean, I think that sort of answers. Again, I was just trying to throw in some things that were in my head, nothing urgent. The other thing is when we do. Why does one need to do a gem install bundler when one sort of does this process?
This is if you're starting with a completely fresh box, right? You have Ruby and Ruby gems, but bundle itself, a bundler, is actually a gem, and it's the gem that manages all the package relationships, and so the whole being able to read a gem file and a gem file.lock and do the various computation associated with it. That's what bundler does. So it's kind of like it's the bootstrap step, right? That you have to install the package manager before you can process the package managed files that are in the repo.
But I guess I'm thinking then a newer version of bundler. That's the way that I was conceptualizing it. A newer version of bundler, which is on the system, is just not seen in that environment.
Well, I think by default, if you get the custom kind of like blank workspace from C9, it will have Ruby installed, and Ruby has Ruby gems as part of it, but it doesn't have bundler installed at all.
That I'm aware of.
Right. And so
but now I'm talking about not a clean workspace. I'm talking about we've been doing stuff.
Okay.
And now we go back, we do the RVM install Ruby 2.3, but then we also have to do sort of install bundler again.
The key thing there is that RVM creates kind of a sandbox. So if you've got RVM 2.4, that's one space. Then if you move to 2.3, you haven't got any of the libraries, any of the gems, including bundler, in that separate space. They are kind of like completely isolated hermetically from a Ruby package.
That's fair. I mean, in some ways, obviously, I knew that's going on, and I was just sort of curious. Because it might have worked differently.
It could. I mean, they could have set it up differently, but no, that's the way that RVM and I think
that makes sense. Okay,
works. Yeah. And I mean, there's some additional. There's you can specify gem sets, so you can switch between different virtual gem environments within RVM. But that just makes me scream. So I don't do that. But
well, you know what was interesting? It was a little bit of a teachable moment, because people were saying like, well, I still got this, and now is this going to affect my other space and all? And I was like saying, no, this is what people need to do. They may be working in different environments on different projects, et cetera, and that's what this RVM is. So like I turned that problem that we experienced into something positive.
Fantastic. Yeah, the consummate teacher. Fantastic. Yes. So at least I think we can outline. So then that's the C9. It requires the RVM install, the 2.3, and that leads on to reinstalling any gems for 2.3.
Right. And what we found, I mean, what we had them do, and which is also after the RVM install, was do an RVM use, which I guess.
Yeah, yes, you do have to do RVM use, and then I mean also sensibly set the RVM default so that when you relog into the workspace the following day, it hasn't gone back to 2.4.
Oh, is that okay? Is that set? What was that last thing that you said? The RVM, the
RVM default. So if we go to the let's go to here to RVM homepage, the documentation. There is they got that. Sometimes it's on the front page. No, RVM. What was that? They had a hyperlink to the documentation here. Installing RVM, grading. It's probably the one, isn't it? No, it's Control F default. With default gems. That's not default. There you go. This is the syntax that you want. See, like RVM use 2.1, and then raw. There it is. I'll put it in the Slack. So if you are going with the 2.3 route, then what you would want to do, just kind of say like, let's lock on that and have that as the default. Then you'd use that command to say both use it now and just make that the default when I relog into the workspace.
Interesting. And when you say the workspace, meaning?
I mean the C9 workspace, the terminal. Like, and when you open a new, like, because you can have multiple bash terminals in C9, right?
Right.
And so you can always do, to check where you are, you can always be doing, a bit like the same thing with git status, you can do RVM list. So if we go and look at, I mean, here's a workspace I prepared earlier. This was my clean one. I ran through everything in September in 2.3 before they upgraded, and I didn't know about it. But so if I do RVM list here, you can see this. It shows us. I mean, I've only got RVM 2.3 installed because when I created this workspace, that was that. But so you can see here, it's got this setup of, showing which is the current, which is the default, and if it's current and default. So here I'm just in this one. Actually, what I should sensibly do here is, because this is a clean account, I can also create. So this is, hold on, I did adu raw clean. What I should do here is I should do adu raw clean 2.4. Let me and clean workspace for Ruby 2.4, and they may not allow me to have the point in it. I don't know, public, that's fine. And I choose the blank one, create the workspace. No, we're not allowed to have a dot because then the world would end. So yes, I could sort of demo the command. But if I go to you could a more generic version of, like, so here I've got my on my local system, there's RVM list there. Yeah, you can see I've got all the different Rubies in here, and as it happens there, I've got the 2.31 locked as current and default there, but I can jump around and use different ones if I want to on my local system.
Okay, but now the default would be just if I'm working on like a new project.
Well, the default is when you open a new like shell session, RVM is going to basically control what's available to you, and so it's like well, if you go into a new shell, right? When you open a shell, like if we go now back into here we go. So we've got a new. So if I do here and we do RVM list, so this is a completely fresh workspace, and we can see here by default, Ruby 2.4. But then I can do. Is it 2.3.3 or 1, or what do we actually specify?
Not sure. I just 2.3.0, I think,
Yeah, I
is what
mean,
we had.
let's have a look at. I mean, have I got here? Hello Sinatra, Robert Hills, Rails intro. Doesn't seem right. I don't know. Let's go to the gem file there anyway. So the gem file here, yeah, 2.3.0. So yeah, so I can do RVM install 2.3.0, which then takes a while. But yeah, then I can, once that's done, and we can maybe even like go through bits of this here. I would propose, we've kind of addressed this. I wonder, do you want to talk about the GitHub logistical problem?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that quickly. I'll say one thing, and then you can ignore it. I sort of had the idea that the version of Ruby was associated with each project, and that which it is with the gem file, but that's why the default thing. I'll have to look into and see the implications for that. The GitHub issue is that we have some Autograders that are using some GitHub API calls to check on things, and we're running into problems when we run these, like sort of exceeding the number of API calls, et cetera, for this free account that we have. And I was just wondering, just before I start looking into that, if you knew that either the signing up for an education account, which I have yet to do, or just doing some like paid account, it might be a good solution to this.
So this is to calls to the GitHub API?
I believe so.
Yeah.
This is like secondhand reports from my TAs.
The best kind. Well, anyway, I believe what you can do with the GitHub, there's like validated and unvalidated. So if you get, just even for a free account, you can create an auth token, a GitHub secret and client ID, and then if you associate those with your requests to the GitHub API, you get like 10 times the rate limit. So you don't need to pay anything. You just need to, like, if we go now here to there's some GitHub thingies. If I go to GitHub and I go to my settings, and then we look at here, we've got like, you can have applications. That's not the right one. What is it? Securities notification, SH, or developer settings. Maybe that's it. GitHub apps. You can create, like, there you go, like personal access tokens. And yeah, so this is, I think either one, in principle, either one. Basically here, this is where you want to be. You can generate a token like this. And then, yeah, say what access it should have. And then you can basically pass that token over with your API call. You can also, I think, with the OAuth app here, you can create like a client ID and a client secret. And but so I can maybe find you a bit of, so this is like authenticating GitHub API calls. I don't know how this relates to the Autograder per se.
Well, no, it's I'm sorry, I'm calling it our Autograder that we go in. Okay, we check to see whether people have done these assignments. We've written a bunch of scripts.
Yep, I recall. Yes.
Yeah. And offhand, and I'll leave it at this, because this is helpful to follow up with. If my guys have already done this, and they're still getting the problem, and because that is a possibility. They're not. They might have. Then any thoughts or?
Well, then, I mean, there's kind of, I mean, like, well, one, I mean, I'll send you this thing, which is like related to, you can query about your rate limit. I mean, yes, conceivably you could be paying to get more stuff, but the rate limit, once you're authenticated, I think is kind of is pretty good. But staying with the rate limits, you can like.
So you think basically you're saying my follow up is probably not relevant.
Well, I think you would want to direct the students to this link that I'm about to share with you now, which is like, this is the GitHub documentation about how to.
Yeah, I see. Right.
And using caching the API responses, using conditional requests. This is, they need to be using this basic authentication or OAuth. And if maybe they are ready. If they are ready, then as GitHub suggests, you can likely fix it with these other two approaches.
Okay, that's cool. And I was just they've been bugging me, or I've been planning to do an educational account, which they were saying, oh, maybe that would help. But these guys have hit on this for a while, and they've always been able to work around it. So I've always heard about this in the background, and we just have some new TAs that are less good at working around things.
I mean, the educational account may be helpful, but I would strongly recommend like focusing on that second link that I've sent them there. About
that all seems good.
That's okay. The key. Okay, cool.
I will defer.
And then, so we had this thing about the walkthrough for the Rails intro. So you've been through the text version of the Rails intro walkthrough.
Yeah, I'm looking through. That's what I'm going to be finishing looking through today.
Yes. So that was just like to mention that you're doing that. There wasn't like an action item associated with that.
Right.
Cool. I was just going to go there and, for reference, find that.
Okay.
Which is here, and yeah, is the start and so on, going through in yeah. So this was me going through it in Ruby 2.3. So in the background, we can see that now I've installed Ruby 2.3, and we can see that the current and default versions of Ruby are different in this window. Yeah. So now, what happens if I open a new terminal window and we try Ruby -v, we get 2.4. However, if I say RVM use, I mean, I'm currently using it anyway, but RVM use 2.3.0, and then I do the default flag, like so, we can do RVM list like this, right? So now you can see with that little equals and star, 2.3 is our current version in this terminal, and also our default version. So now, if I open a new terminal and we do Ruby -v, we get 2.3. And so we can set these equally. We can choose whatever configuration we like, and it's going to affect what happens when we open new terminal windows, or we shut down this entire workspace and come back to it the following day. I'm not sure actually if I shut it down, how much of this. I think C9 keeps it going for a little while, but then after a certain number of minutes or hours, like the thing gets shut down and it may reload the thing, and so all bets are off.
Okay.
So we're all good on RVM versioning now.
Good enough. I mean, I still have some more questions about it. I don't want to take more time.
Well, what we could go on, Rose?
On this.
Yeah.
That website on rvm.io, do they have any sort of little tutorial for students who are just trying to understand RVM? I mean, I could send them to these pages, but do they have anything that's specifically for someone who's just starting out?
Let us see. They have this thing called Basics and Getting Started.
Okay.
Which has some things. I mean, this is this has got like at least a high level description there of what it's for. So
yeah, okay. Well, that's a good place.
Yeah, I'll just grab those links that I'll put them in, but I'll also put them into the notes as well. So what we could do there, we've spent some time on the issue that Richard brought up. Obviously, Rose was confounded in attempts to carry on what we started last time, and I just need to remember what we did start last time. We were looking at the
didn't get very far.
We were looking at the acceptance test unit cycle.
Yeah, right.
Assignment, right, which is the next one that your students are coming up on, and we did start this walkthrough going through there. We did it in the my existing workspace with 2.3. Maybe we should have switched to 2.4. That may be even a thing to do now with Richard, since we just installed a 2.4 workspace. That would be even cleaner. And we got to the point where we had kind of like made the initial bundle where we could, like, with nothing in it, and we could run Cucumber and RSpec. And I believe what we went ahead and did is, now if I can find the right what's this? That is the current version of the MOOC. The MOOC's also supposed to start like in 10 days or something, which means there's other things I've got to do, including clear out all the old stuff from this thing. But the course, so if we go and look at this, and we look to, where are we here? BDD and Cucumber, except there we go. So yes, that was the one we were looking at last week. And we got it so that it would effectively give like a, you know, like it would say, I think this is what we were seeing last week. So this is if they have no Cucumber tests and no RSpec tests, and they basically end up getting kind of like 20 for it out of 100 there. And so what we should maybe do is just quickly rerun that. So I think that was this one, since I've made changes to the grader since then. The other thing that you two actually might be interested in that I now recall is that Armando and team, they have created a version of the acceptance test thing that is called the light version, which is here. And this has more scaffolding in the, it's sort of, maybe it's obviously too late for you, Rose, but something, I don't know if you even regularly.
Not really.
Go on, Rose.
Oh, this is the previous homework.
No,
is that
no, this is so Armando and his TAs are running the CS1 course at Berkeley this semester, and in anticipation of problems that students, I mean, I only found out about this a week ago, but in anticipation of problems that people might be having with this assignment, they've made a different version that has a slightly different scaffolding that includes, like as you may remember, the original acceptance test unit test cycle one, it doesn't include the features and stuff that you might have written for the previous assignment, the homework BDD Cucumber. And so what you historically had to do was, in order to pass this assignment, you had to take the code out of your previous assignment and put it into this one to get coverage and this, that, and the other.
Right.
And so I think partly to address that, Armando, maybe actually this maybe like his TAs had the idea that they actually had a pull request open on the, not this assignment, no, let's go over here, acceptance test unit test cycle. Yeah, in fact that's the pull request there. So yeah, it involved updating the instructions. I think what they've done is, I mean, I was suggesting for a while, like, why are we having students do all these steps when we could run them ourselves and put them in the scaffold for the students? Actually, we talked about this last week, didn't we, Rose? And so they've up their pull request here, which Amanda's now telling me not to merge it. He's saying like they've got their expectations about how, you know, he doesn't know what stage all the different people around the world are using it are in. But so yeah, and so what it has is like it's got these scaffolded Cucumber stuff that it didn't have before, and some movie steps and so on that you had to write in the previous assignment anyway, if we recall. And so that's all been pushed in there. And so what I'm hearing is that they said, right, because we don't want to potentially interfere with other people who are like students, there may be students around the world already set assignments off this thing, rather than changing the existing assignment, they've created this this one. They've created this light version of it, which is the version that the Berkeley students are using this semester. Did that make sense?
Somewhat. I mean, I have to look at it clearly. But.
Yeah. Anyway, that link is there for reference. I mean, I think we may make this the default one going forward. But so if we have a look again over here, yeah. So the grader has now correctly, as much as this is like an empty version. Like, so if the students just followed the initial getting started steps and then you know, submitted the folder at that point, this is the kind of, they would get like 20 out of 100 there. So the grader is kind of working against that. And that's as far as we got in the testing. I think it was last time we were trying to kind of hunt down and better understand some of the errors that your students have been getting. Was that right, Rose?
Well, just to see what's going on with the, let me see. They hadn't really worked so much on that as the previous one. So what I remember that we were going to do, because we hadn't run into problems yet with it, but had heard that there were problems with Bundler, we were going to try and get in front of it.
Right, right. Yes. And I mean, in principle, those things are fixed. What I'm seeing, and I need to look at it, is now, so this is like, if I take one of my reference solutions for this one, which is here called homework 4 in the old thing, and I submit that, then I get very strange errors, but that will be from people who've like used an older version of Bundler. I mean, we'll see what it actually does there.
Right. Right.
I mean, the thing is that as Bundler is increased, Bundler now has this check to check which version of bundle the gem file. So if we have a look in, I mean, here I don't have any, and I'm just tempted here to, if we go back to, were we on the thing that Richard's looking at, the it's the Rails intro one that you're just about to start on, isn't it, Richard?
Oh, we're in the middle of starting on, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just going to, so from there, so we start off by cloning this. Gosh, anyway, I'm just going to clone it directly rather than following these. My instructions not to fork it have been overwritten by people saying you must fork it. I don't know why, but there we go. So I was going to, oh no. Like if I go into Rails here, and then into, is it, oh no, actually I've cloned the wrong thing, have I? Like for this assignment, you have to go off and clone a different repo.
Right. It's like rotten potatoes, it says.
Yeah. And then the following ones have this different thing that they actually have it inside the, I mean, if we could just get kind of consistency throughout all of these assignments, that would be one huge baton. Okay, so we've got, it's this one, all right. I'll go on. Come on. Copy. That's not what I want. Maybe it is. So get clone. Okay. Yes. So if we look in here, if we open the gem file, look. Yeah, oh, it's actually gem file lock, isn't it? That's on the bottom. So we can see that it's saying that it was bundled with bundler 1.12.4. If I do gem info bundler here, no, I do gem list rep bundle. Yeah, so the Ruby, you see the Ruby gems bundler there is like 1.4.4. But so sometimes if I then run bundle here, let's see what we'll do. So this is where we have to do the gem install bundle in order to have it processed. And then if I run bundle, we get the warning. Let's see. So this is in fact a fresh 2.4 workspace where I've done the RVM install of 2.3. And I guess we're running at 2.3 there. Yeah, I did. I set it to use 2.3 and be default. Okay. Anyway, so it's thinking about it. But yeah, so let's go back to the grader and see what its thoughts. Yeah. Now, this is for like old things that were done in the past. This is my reference solution. I just get this like this. This is all the error message I get.
Boy, that makes like no sense.
No. So now, in principle, our current students, if they are actually creating the thing from scratch, they shouldn't encounter this because this is the error that you get from a reference solution, which as a student, you shouldn't have access to. So, and now, of course, I don't know for certain that there aren't ways to conceivably encounter this issue if you have done the latest stuff, because it's all just moving too fast to keep up. But yeah, this is what I'm going to be looking at with the this and other thing I'm going to be looking at with the Berkeley
yeah, and just exactly what you were going on is that if I start to see this, it would be curious to know, like, with what certainty I can conclude that they're taking shortcuts.
Yeah, I think.
And if you find out, like, situations, because that's the problem I have, is like sometimes I'll accuse people. It's like, well, you're blah blah blah, and then it turns out no, they really happen to encounter the same thing.
Well, I think that the critical thing that I'm gradually impressing upon the Berkeley TAs is that what we must have in any error report is, one, a screenshot of the actual, what we see here from the grader, and two, a copy of the submitted solution. And what we do is then take that and turn that into a test case in the Autograder, and I will be able to tell if you give me, I mean, if a student is then, oh, I've deleted my solution, like, oh no, I don't want to share it with you, what have you. I mean, I think you can start to, there's always excuses, and there's always like a level of doubt. But I think that, that's what I would be doing up front with the students, is saying, look, things will go wrong, but what you absolutely must do is show us what's gone wrong, give us your submission, and that will allow us to get to the bottom of it. Yeah, we can't fix these things where they're just kind of like, oh, the Autograder seems not to be working. Blah, blah, blah. So and that's, I think, the students may feel like, oh, well, that's just being a bit draconian. That's absolutely, it's not just an artifact of this course. That's absolutely what we need in every level of engineering software efforts up and down the thing. Is, don't just tell us there's a problem.
Yeah.
Screenshot it and give us all of the input and all of the output. And then with those things, we can replicate, get to the bottom of it, and kind of that level of rigor, I think, is, that's probably the most important thing to impress upon anybody who's interested in doing software engineering. I'll just, I got on my soapbox there. I'll just pop it over to the side there. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, I guess the only other interesting thing that's happening is that in the background there, we've installed this on the 2.3, and it's kind of got there and it's all installed. I don't think there's anything excited there. I mean, the more interesting thing to have done here would have been to do RBM use 2.4 default like this. And so we can see here how now I would have to do again gem install bundler. Because now, like gem, if I do gem list here, right, this is just like a few things that came with. I mean, it's interesting that it's got this Ruby gems bundler. It seems like bundler is actually then a separate thing. No, there's a few Ruby gems that can come, and then look, this bundler. So we've now got a different bundler. Is like a, this 1.2.4, and we can do bundle here now. Okay, so then this is the other fix. So yeah, gem file. So if I then change this to 2.4 here, and I think, Richard, this is that's in principle the only change that's needed there. The what would be interesting would then be to run through like the Rails intro assignment walkthrough in this context and see if we encounter any errors. I mean, I don't like, if we just quickly, we lost Richard there. Oh no, Richard. New in Ruby 2.4. I mean, I think 2.4 should be backwards compatible. Oh, there's 2.42 is out already. Goodness me. And like until they go to Ruby 3, there shouldn't be breaking changes with this. Like what have we got here? We've got performance improvements, debugging, other yeah. I mean, these things should not affect our assignments really. And but having said that, this was me just trying to do bundle install in 2.4, and we've got a failure. There we go. We've got a failure to build the SQLite with native extensions. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, which makes it look like 2.3 is probably safer for the time being.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that.
No, there's some, obviously we can see here that it's 2.4. Yeah, so Richard's probably saying, oh, Richard, are you back in?
He's muted.
Muted. Richard, we're just seeing here that actually trying to do bundle install in Ruby 2.4 has run into an error trying to install the SQLite gem. So it's making it look like Ruby 2.3 is actually the safer route at the moment.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, I got to go to my next meeting now. Yeah, good to catch up with you both. We've got some good. I think we got some stuff. We wanted some stuff, didn't we?
Yeah.
Do reach out in Slack if there are more issues or other things I can help with, and otherwise I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, if let me know if you do want to work some more on the assignment.
Yeah, I would. I think it would be. I may need to in order to get to the bottom of the
yeah,
the error. So I'll let you know.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Sorry you had to drop out there, Richard. I'll try and summarize this thing for you in Slack. Bye for now. Take care.
Bye for now. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.